It gives me great pride to announce today Kyle as the new general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Thank you, Brendan. I'd just like to begin by stating that I'm very fortunate and lucky to be here, and just would like to take the time to kind of go through the people or the organizations that have helped me along this path, and that have helped me to be lucky along the way and to accrue such fortune. First and foremost, the MLSE ownership, chairman of the board, Mr. Tannenbaum, for showing the faith in me 4 years ago, and then furthering that obviously here today. In addition, obviously, Brendan as the president of our club, and everything that he's done for the organization and for me, it's greatly appreciated, and looking forward to continuing to work closely with Brendan. Peter Miller, our chief legal officer, for helping to put all this together in short order the last couple of days. And I obviously wouldn't be here if it weren't for the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds. They gave me an opportunity when I was 11 years old to begin working in hockey every day. Dave Torrey and Mike McFarland gave me an opportunity with the same organization when I was 17 to begin scouting for the team. And then when I was 25 years old, the ownership, led by the late Dr. Lou Lamoriello, gave me the opportunity to become the general manager of that organization. And that's, for me, a source of great pride. There are a number of people there from day one that I'd like to recognize that helped turn that program around. Wes Clark, Victor Carnero, Chris Rock, John McGarr, and Nick Delapenta were the people there from the first day that helped us move that program forward. And we've got a big game in Sault Ste. Marie tonight in the OHL final that we're looking to get this done and get to watch, which would be great. The people that I've worked with every day here for the last 3 years on a very, very close basis, the player development staff led by Scott Pellerin, and the Toronto Marlies staff, and our research and development crew led by Daryl Metcalf. The Marlies, I'd be remiss not to mention the efforts of the players throughout the last number of years. They're the ones in the end that go on and play. The whole job, I think, is to support and give the players the proper resources to have the success that they can. The atmosphere that's created here by the MLSE executive and our staff at this company, it's a great company to work for and people to work with. And that, for me, is excited. They do a great job in providing tremendous resources for our whole organization through the work that they do in the community, and of course here at Air Canada Centre, and it's very exciting for me to be able to work with that crew. Maple Leaf fans, since my wife and I arrived here in Toronto, we came from a community that was very hockey mad in Sault Ste. Marie, where the Greyhounds were the only thing to Toronto. Where it doesn't need my justification for how important the Maple Leafs are in the community and the importance of the team to the people of Toronto. And from day one, it's been a very welcoming, very positive fan base, and has made our lives very, very easy. So we're very excited to continue to work in this community. It's been great. For me, two people in particular I'd like to mention. Sheldon Keefe, he and I have worked together for the last 6 years in a manager and coach relationship, and I think my partnership with him and relationship with him has really helped me to grow as a manager, and he's obviously done a great job coaching, and is a very bright young coach. Lou Lamoriello. Lou has been an unbelievable mentor and resource for me. Forget about all the hockey stuff, which I could sit here forever and talk about, how important he's been for me in growing from being really a young person when I came and started here 4 years ago that had only worked in the OHL, to developing to this point today. And especially in the last couple years, my relationship with Lou has grown to more than just an assistant general manager type relationship. He's really been an unbelievable mentor to me, not just in how to handle the hockey operation, handle the players, handle the coaching staff, how to handle agents, and the ins and outs of the general manager job. But I think more importantly, what I've learned from Lou is how to handle people and how to treat people's families, and the way that he treated my family and my wife and our young guy throughout has been remarkable, and I'll look to carry that forward. I told him I wouldn't say too many nice things about him because he didn't want me to ruin his reputation. So, so we'll leave it at that with Lou. But I'm very thankful for Lou, and he'll always be and I know we have a little bit of difference in our age, but he'll always be a great friend and mentor and advisor to me, and I'm very excited to work with him moving ahead. And then lastly, my wife Shannon, she's the most unbelievable partner, supportive person someone could ask for, and she's only better as a mother than she is as a partner, where she's an unbelievable, loving, caring mother to our young guy. So thank you. I love you. The road ahead with the Maple Leafs. I think when Mike arrived here, he gave a soundbite that's lived on, which was that there was going to be pain, and there was. And in the last couple of years, I think under Lou's stewardship and guidance, and the team has transformed its atmosphere. It's transformed the narrative around the team, the way that people behave, the standard of what it is to be a Maple Leaf has transformed, thanks to Lou. And now we enter into another part of our journey, which is to reach our ultimate goal of contending perennially to be fighting at this time for the Stanley Cup instead of sitting here. Over the past 4 seasons, there's been a major transformation in our franchise, thanks to the work of Lou, Mike and his staff, Mark Hunter and his staff, Brandon Pridham in our office, and so on and so forth. But the most difficult part of our journey lies ahead. We're in a very difficult division. We knew that firsthand in the first round, and we see the series between Tampa and Boston. There's a number of up-and-coming teams in our division that are only going to get better year in and year out. So at that point, it's up to us to continue to use the great resources we have here at MLSE, but also to be the most resourceful team that we can be, and not just rely on having a lot of resources. And that involves finding inefficiencies when it comes to our tactical deployment, our player development staff, our scouting staff, our sports science staff, and the great staffs that we have there, and also to continue to build our programs properly and to the benefit of our players in sports science and mental wellness and the like. The only way that we're going to move this thing ahead and move it and to reach our potential here as an organization is to do it together. And when I say together, I mean our my fellow management members and Mark Hunter and Brandon Pridham, our coaching staff led by Mike Babcock, our public relations team led by Steve Keogh, our research and development team led by Daryl Metcalf, our medical staff and sports science department led by Jeremy Bettel and Noah Foreman, our equipment staff led by Brian Papineau, our scouting staff on the pro side led by Dave Morrison, including Reed Mitchell, and our business, finance, and logistics team in our office led by Leanne Hedderson, Laura Patterson, Megan Arnoldy, Steve Hare, Adam Jansilowitz, and Brad Lynn. It's going to take all of us together to continue to move this thing ahead, and that's the most exciting part of it for me, is that I'm very much looking forward to leading this operation and trying to help the Maple Leafs reach our potential. And that's what we're here for today, is to move this ahead and get going, and I'll take any questions that we have.
Thank you, gentlemen. Before we start, just a note, please wait for the microphone. We'll start with Henny.
Thank you, Steve. Kyle, congratulations. 13 Marley graduates with the big club this season. Why was the Marley so good for you over the course of the last 4 years? Things that maybe we might not have seen that allowed you to hasten the process to get you to where you are here
right.
today.
It's interesting. When I first came here, you have a vision of, you don't want to be trapped in being an American League GM, or you don't really know when you come from major junior. You don't really know what an American League general manager does. But what it's helped me to do, Paul, is to work very closely with our young players and really dig in on the player development side and realize how important that is. It just so happened to coincide at a time where player development was going to become very important to our organization. And I think you see with the graduates from the Marlies up to the Leafs, the job that Scott Pellerin and his staff have done, the job that Sheldon has done there has been remarkable, and it's been a great honor for me to be able to work with them every day and build that system out, and then continue to see that all the work that's done come up to the surface here and help the Maple Leafs, and that my involvement and my focus on player development, I think we only need to continue to increase it, because we need to continue to develop players for the Maple Leafs. But it's been a great pleasure of mine to be able to work there with that staff and with all those young players. It's been one of the best things I feel I've had the opportunity to do in my time.
Lance.
Congratulations, Kyle. Could you sort of touched on it, can you address the team as you see it heading into next season, and your relationship with Mike Babcock?
The team, as we see it heading into next season, I think obviously it's a very young group as it is now. We have lots of decisions to make, and we'll take our time and go through our normal off season as any team would. We'll gather in all of our people and do a full analysis of where we're at and as it relates to where we want to go. And we'll do that very thoroughly, and we'll take the proper steps forward. As it relates to Mike, I've worked with Mike the last 3 years here, and I've always had a good relationship with Mike. Very, very good. We talk not only just about hockey, but about all aspects of life, fatherhood, family, and so on and so forth. So I'm excited to get to work with Mike. I think the way that he's perceived is not, in my opinion of him, is that the way that he's perceived is that he's very open to ideas. He's very open to change. He's very open to trying to make the Maple Leafs better, and that's really his only focus. So that's the way that we're going to continue to move it ahead and try to help as best we can, working with each other.
Kevin.
Kyle, excuse me, how will a Kyle Dubas Maple Leafs team be different from a Lou Lamoriello Maple Leafs team? And that's as open-ended as you want it to be, whether it's like rules around the team and beards or a style of play on the ice sort of thing.
The style of play on the ice, I think, is always a partnership between the GM and the coach, and they have to be on the same page. I think as Lou and Mike were, that'll be the same with Mike and myself. We'll sit and discuss the way that we play, analyze it for any ways we want to continue to get better, and obviously until we're sitting in the middle of June at a Stanley Cup press conference, we have a lot of work to do. So that's be our main goal, be to work together and find the way that we're going to continue to move the team ahead. That'll be our only focus. As it pertains to the rules and such, I grew to come to enjoy and like a lot of the rules that Lou put in place. I think as it pertains to some of them, we'll sit as a staff, whether it's myself and Mike, myself and Brendan, and go through everything as we would every year, as we did with Lou every year, and evaluate where we want to move forward and what we want to keep the same. And so it'll be business as usual.
Terry.
Question for Brendan. The consensus is you had two excellent choices within the organization, in Kyle and Mark Hunter, and I'm just wondering about the choice, if you will, of youth over experience, if you want to put it that way. Are you worried now that Mark will leave for a job in another organization?
Well, I definitely examined, prospects that were outside of our organization as well. But I also knew that after working here for 4 years, that we had two incredibly qualified people in-house. And I think as I interviewed with Mark and then interviewed with Kyle, I think it was reaffirmed to me that the answer was within our own organization. As you can see from Kyle, with his complete knowledge of the entire organization that we have and everybody involved and how it works, I think there's an advantage in hiring somebody in-house as far as being up and running and continuing with the progress that we've had. People sometimes underestimate, I think, what Mark Hunter does for this organization. He's a fabulous scout, but has been involved since he's come on board with trades, with free agency, with Kyle and Mark have worked well together with the Marlies. I know Kyle uses Mark as a resource, so to try and suggest that Mark has just simply been somebody that scouts for us is completely inaccurate. So Lou has used his entire staff available to him. So it was a difficult decision in that we had two such qualified people, but ultimately I went with Kyle. Mark wanted the job for sure. Kyle knows that. Mark knows that. I called Mark a couple nights ago to say that I was going to zero in on Kyle out of respect for Mark. I spoke to him again this morning. Mark likes Kyle. He respects the decision. He's got a lot of respect for Kyle, and I think at this point now it's really up to the general manager and his staff to get together in the coming weeks and sort of see how all that plays out.
Maybe a follow-up then to Kyle. Are you confident you can keep Mark on staff?
I think, Terry, the reality is I've worked with Mark here now for 4 seasons, and like with every staff member, now that my role has changed, I'll just go through with each staff member, top to bottom, their impression of where we are, whether they are excited about moving forward, and that's not exclusive to Mark, but I'm very hopeful that everybody here will want to remain a part of it and move ahead. That'd be my only goal.
Dave.
Brendan, this question's for you. Since you hired Lou 3 years ago, everything has trended upwards and the organization's continued to move in the right direction. There are some people who believe in the philosophy of if it's not broke, don't fix it. Why did you feel now was the best time to make a change and install Kyle?
I love the questions from the dreaded some people. I used to hate that as a player. Some people think you're too old. They were right. Some people are smart. You know, I can only say that everything that I've tried to do since I've been here, some of it has been conventional, some of it's been unconventional, but everything I've always ever tried to do was what I thought was the best decision for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Some of those things require patience, and some of them require being proactive. I was under no pressure from anyone to do this. I was under no obligation to anyone to do this. I just really felt, in looking at Kyle, that he was more than ready, and that it was the right time. So you make decisions when you're running a hockey team or any business really, and you take in as much information as possible. It's maybe a little unfair to you guys that we don't always share each and every thought process that goes into our decisions. But I can just say that everything that I knew and had learned told me that this was the right time.
Thank you. Dave Schultz.
Coach had stole a bit of my thunder here, but Kyle, to get back to the Mark Hunter thing, could you sort of elaborate on how you see your relationship with him, and do you have a definite idea in mind of how he fits into your organization or not? And B, Brendan, given the difference in experience with Kyle and Lou, do you see yourself getting a little more involved in the daily operation of the hockey team or not?
Do you want me to go first? Because I'll forget by the time. I'm a little older. I've already forgotten. No, it's. I think that I don't really see a big difference. I mean, I'm obviously my view of the relationship between president and general manager is to be there to support. I think that that worked well with Lou and I, and Lou was a great communicator with me. We talked every single day. Any sort of news or anything that came across his desk was relayed to me. I think that it'll be the same with Kyle in the respect that we will have a lot of communication. But as far as running the organization, that's Kyle's. Kyle's the general manager, and he's in charge, and I'm there to support him. I don't think that my role necessarily changes, other than when I'm needed, I'm there. And when I'm not needed, I'll be out of his way.
And to answer your question, Dave, about my relationship with Mark, in the first year here, the structure was very different. We were very closely together every day, and the subsequent 3 years, there's been a lot more structure. We still work closely. I try and help and support Mark any way that I can, and vice versa, and leaning on him for Marlies and player development, reporting, and his take on where our players are going. So I said I think we'll leave here. I'll convene with everybody on staff, and then we'll begin to chart our course forward for sure in terms of utilizing what everyone's best strengths are to best help the organization. That'll be the only goal.
Chris.
Question for Brandon. In the 4 years since Kyle came on, what has strengthened your conviction that he would succeed or thrive in this role?
Well, I've just watched I've watched him from day one. Like I said, take on a lot of different roles. Again, no job was too big, no job was too small. Kyle was very helpful to other departments, and yet it never ever took away from whatever task he was given. We've set out with him as his number one priority with the Toronto Marlies is to be a feeder to the Toronto Maple Leafs. And secondly, after the development issue is we want them to win. So to strike that balance of being able to develop hockey players so that as many as possible can seamlessly transition to the Maple Leafs, being his first job, I think that it's also been equally impressive that he's still maintained to have a successful team down there as well. So the work that he's done, and again, what I'm privy to, whether it's at the draft, behind the scenes in our office, behind the scenes in the arena, is just somebody that is excellent at working with others, is very inclusive, likes to take in information from a lot of diverse people with that look at the game from diverse and different backgrounds. And then he is very good at taking all that information and coming to what I think are good judgments and good decisions.
Dave, last question.
Kyle, this question's for you. When you came on board a number of years ago here to this point today, where do you feel you've developed most in terms of what you've learned the job that you're now in now entails?
Well, I think I've certainly learned the most from Lou, and I think what I've learned most is at this level, after coming from major junior, and then working in the American League, is the standard that you need to set for your organization and your players, and the consistency with which you need to hold that to each and every day in your treatment of players, your interactions with the coaching staff, your reporting into the person above you in the organization, being that Brendan and the president. So that's really what I've learned as important, and I think I've developed over the last 4 years, particularly the last 3 under Lou. So that's really what I'm looking forward to putting into place here. Obviously, it's been a lot of development on the player development and the R&D side that has been very gratifying work. But I think the keys are in the actual managing, which is what I've learned from Lou since he came on.